it's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done. Alright, well, I've taken all the interior out. I knew that there was rust, but I didn't know that there was that much rust. The only thing I can really do is fix the holes. I'll have to cut out the rust, weld new metal into the floor. I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna have to figure out how to fix it. After a ton of preparation, I decided that the best plan of attack was to cut out the lower interior support to fabricate a new one out of the unused floor from my split bus build. It was a challenge bending the 90-degree angles with nothing but vice grips and some pliers, but it came out pretty nicely in my opinion. Next I sized up the new panel to the old one. It might not look like there's much rust on the old panel, but trust me, body filler can hide a lot. The old metal was so rusty and thin that there would have been no way to properly weld the floor on. A small bit of metal was left on the pinch welds, but taking that off isn't all that hard if you know what to do. I found that by taking a drill or a grinder to the spot welds first allows the rest of the metal to just peel off with the help of some strong pliers. I cleaned up the area, ground down the edges I would be welding, and cut the panel to fit. I'm not too great at cutting panels perfectly, so I cut the panel a little bit too big at first and then slowly cut it back until the gap was right. The pinch welds were originally held together by spot welds, but since I don't have the clamping spot weld machine, plug welds will do the job just fine. Next I use these great little panel holders that keep the gap nice and straight while keeping the panels level with each other. The first few tacks hold the panel in place, and then it's just a matter of patience, letting the panel cool, and putting spot welds on the seam. The panel was looking good. Welds are getting good penetration, not much buildup or splatter, gas setting seemed right, and even the weather was cooperating. So it's not completely welded in yet, it's just kind of spot welded in. The weld is going to be continuous across the whole panel, I just need to finish welding it. And you can't really weld more than just one spot here and there, back and forth across the panel, because if you do too many welds together in the same point, it starts to warp the panel. This actually is a lot better, like the warping isn't bad at all with the new welder, but I used to use the flux core welder, which is what I used on the split window, and it was very difficult to keep the panel from warping. So I have a feeling it's because I can control the voltage a lot better, and that the welder is like, I don't know, it's just way better, and the gas is so much nicer, it makes the weld so much prettier, and there's so much less splatter too. The splatter is like basically non-existent. There are some other things that I need to figure out with this, with when this is on. I need to figure out, number one, there was a lot of Bondo on the side of the car. That was just because, number one, there was a dent right here. There was a pretty big dent. And it looks like they fixed the dent by just putting Bondo over it. And when I welded the new panel to it, I kind of made it fit, but you know, I pulled the dent out a little bit, but there's still a lot of Bondo on top. So now the Bondo is kind of, you know, not level. I could take down all the Bondo and try just to get it down to bare metal and then just paint it like that, but I'm not going to a body shop to have them do any body filler or anything like that. When I'm done with these welds, I'm going to need to grind them down. And the new panel was a little bit flatter than the old one, I guess just because of the dents that were on there previously and the fact that the car is kind of rounded there. It does make the weld kind of come to a point, like right where it's welded, it kind of comes to a point, and that wasn't like because of the weld, it wasn't like because of heating or anything like that, it was because the panel itself was a little bit flatter. I tried to bend the panel just a little bit, but you don't want to bend it too much because then it'll start looking like you bent it. I mean, it's not going to be a perfect job, but it's going to be fixed, and it's going to be fixed right. I got back to work on the panel, finally finishing up the welds just as the sun went down. It's work that definitely takes a lot of patience. Nothing says Merry Christmas, neighbors, like grinding welds at 8 a.m. With the welds now flat, I wanted to protect them from surface rust, so I cleaned them up and sprayed them with some primer. Well, back again, and the side is done. Alright, so I finished the welding on the side now. At least the outside is done. The floor is still a big caving hole. The next step is going to be taking down the old Bondo that was on the side to try to flatten it out a little bit. I'm obviously not going to take it all down, but I just want to make sure that I get it nice and flat, just enough so that when I paint it, it's not like ridiculously noticeable that I've done something to the side. Well, that's pretty much it for this week. I was able to get what I wanted to get done. Next week, we're going to take a look at the inside and replace the floor, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching.